Today, I want to talk a bit about our goals for the PlayStation 5 hardware and how they influenced the development of the console.
A few moments later.
A lot of things that would simply have been impossible at Blu-ray disc speeds were now possible. At the same time, though, in 2015 and 2016, when we were having these conversations, developers were already banging up against the limits of the hard drive, and
20 minutes later.
incorporated the PC part into our console. This continuous improvement in AMD technology means it's dangerous to rely on teraflops as an absolute indicator of performance, and CU count should be avoided as well. In the case of CPU,
1 hour later.
so if we compare transistor counts, 36 RDNA 2 CUs equates to roughly 58 PlayStation 4 CUs. It is a fairly sizable GPU. Then we went with a variable frequency strategy.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. Right, the specs of the PS5 are finally out, and the show was actually very dull, as I just showed briefly, and very long, and yeah, it just sort of beat around the bush about a lot of things which I'm going to go over. There's a lot of information they still didn't reveal about the PS5, in my opinion, as well, and they wasn't too clear about it. He seemed to just, I don't know if he just seemed to just drag it out and purposely make it so it's sort of not that clear for people. I'm not sure of Cerny's whole point to the PowerPoint presentation, which is like it was, and the people watching, were they fake? It just all seemed very odd, very weird setup. It was almost as if like Xbox had come out with something, and then the guys at Sony had said, "Quick, we have to compete. Just do something in meeting room 4. Just knock something up. Do a mock presentation, and we'll just run with that." And they're like, "Yeah, just do that." But here are the stats. Anyway, let's look at the stats. This is for all the machines. It goes back, but let's ignore that right now and just go on to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. So, processor. Clearly, the Xbox Series X is better. So, ding to Xbox Series X. I'm just going to go down the line here, just be basic. I'm not going to go into all the mathematics and stuff and everything, which a lot of people do. Though I'm going to clear up some points, which people don't seem to be too clear on. GPU. Xbox Series X is got 2 teraflops more, even though people were thinking this doesn't matter, which is odd. Memory is the same. Storage. Xbox has got more storage. Optical drive, they're both using 4K Ultra, HD Blu-ray, 4K support. Yes, the interesting about this in some articles, by Xbox Series X it has native 4K, whereas by the PS5 specs it just says 4K. It doesn't say native. So is it upscaling again, like they did on the PS4 Pro, which would be very interesting. 8K support, yes, but I doubt these would be for games of both consoles. Very much like, very likely for TV and stuff like that. 8K would far from it. The TVs alone cost about 10K or something ridiculous like that at the moment. Waste of time doing 8K support. HDR support, yes. Ports to be announced on PS5. As usual, Xbox has 3 ports. White. Who cares, really? Dimensions, there we go. Now, the interesting thing that has been highlighted so far is the load times. Now, before I get on to load times, and I've got here a demo, actually, of the Xbox X versus Xbox Series X load times, so you can have a quick look at the difference in load times. The interesting thing a lot of people are saying is the draw distance. Because games load quicker on the PlayStation 5, it will affect draws distance. PS5 will have better draws distance. This is not true. Draws distance really comes from memory. It's what your console can basically remember and develop. That all comes down basically to memory, and the Xbox Series X has a better memory. This is why the Xbox X has a far better draws distance than the PS4 Pro. Or even all other Xboxes. You can see it when I play, because I play MMO games. as a lot of you are aware, and I have a much better draw distance for games, you know, for like code and stuff. I can see much further, much sharper and stuff than other people. To other people, it'll just be a mist or things just won't load in. While I'm playing Xbox X, I can see better. This will carry across onto Xbox Series X and PS5. Xbox Series X will have better draw distance. It will also have better dynamics and better graphics, better resolution. But let's go into the loading times, which is what the PS5 will have an advantage over. How much of an advantage we don't know, and if it really matters, we don't know. But this is, I'm just giving here, just going to show you, because some of you are probably curious, the difference between Xbox X and Xbox Series X load times. So here's a little tech demo here. Don't care about that. And there we go. Look at that. That is quite an increase on load times there and then. That's clearly a State of Decay 2 they're playing, and that chap has clearly just jumped into the game and just carry on playing, just get on with it. Well, the other guy is still loading in. How this will affect multiplayer games is the main question. Will the other person, I guess the other person on a lower console will just wait, which will create massive transparency between PS5. If it's got much faster load times between PS5 and PS4, can you imagine if it's even the PS5 apparently going to be even faster than the Xbox Series X load times? Can you imagine the gap between them when you're loading the game? Now you've still got to wait for all your buddies on the PS4 to load in the game. So the advantage isn't really that good one until everyone owns that series of console. Otherwise, until then, especially when you're playing multiplayer games, it's not going to have an advantage. It will have advantage, however, for a lot of PS4 games, because a lot of them are single player, so it probably won't affect. And a lot of them do have massive load times, and a lot of them are just cutscenes. So I guess in that aspect, if they're still going to go and push the same genre of games, which put me off their console last generation, then it's a bonus to them. Right, but let me move on to another subject. I've also got a tech demo for Gears 5 that Digital Foundry done a short while ago. Xbox One X versus Xbox Series X. So this will show hopefully the quality and graphics. It took them 2 weeks for the coalition to put this together, by the way, to upgrade Gears 5 for the Xbox One X to the Xbox Series X. 2 weeks to do it. So it show load times and hopefully an improvement on graphics. Let's take a quick look at this.
So one of the first things I guess you can see right away here is that the loading times are massively cut down thanks to the new NVMe drive in the system.
This is a really big deal because it's always been a problem on like this current generation of hardware, even on the Xbox One X, where the 5400 RPM drive and the, I would say, lower CPU cores cannot really load things very quickly. And this demo, though, is not using the direct storage API, so it's actually would probably be loading in a more native port. But this 2 weeks, obviously, this is just the raw speed of the SSD.
Yeah, which is pretty impressive. And then obviously beyond that right away, you see the cutscenes here operate at 60 frames per second, which was also possible on the PC version, but on Xbox One X, all cutscenes were rendered at 30 FPS.
Totally expensive thing to do because these models in the cutscene with like the big bokeh depth of field up close shots, it's really expensive to push these cutscenes up to 60 FPS on PC, and to do that on PC, and
So they go on to speak about basically the quality over the two consoles, Xbox Series X versus Xbox One X, which was a powerhouse in itself. And so I'd go and check that video out, Digital Foundry's take on it. But let me move on. Now, the interesting bit about this is what a lot of people overlooked. Is to say the thingy will be faster Sony's console will possibly be faster. However, Sony is, as it says here, Sony is using a variable frequencies on both the CPU and GPU, which is normally referred to as boost clocks on PCs. It's slightly different though. In an interview with Eurogamer, Sony PS5 system architect Mark Cerny reveals the console has a set power budget that's tied to the thermal limits of the system. That means the PS5 performance will vary depending on how much it's being pushed by games. So if you're playing on your PS5 and you're playing a game that obviously is pushing your system, your console will slow down. Whereas it's locked on the Xbox Series X, I should say. So that is very interesting because at one stage the PS5 could be running better depending on the quality of the game, but then it could dip under the Xbox Series X depending on the quality of the game. So that's a very interesting point to make there regarding the PS5 power, which everyone seems to be, or speed, because this is to do with speed, which everyone seems to be looking towards. Another interesting fact to take from this: Sony is hoping that by offering developers less compute units running at a variable and higher clock rate, the company will be able to extract better performance out of the PS5. Hoping. The reality is that it will require developers to do more work to optimize games. Now, in the past, when PS3, I believe, was a perfect example of this, when they relied on developers to do more work, it just didn't work, and as a result, a lot of games lacked drastically in comparison, especially multiplats. So that's very interesting. They're going to rely on developers to optimize their games. That's another interesting point to bring up there. So on to the next bit: storage of both machines. Now, the internal storage for the Xbox Series X is bigger than the PS5. It's actually 20% bigger than the PS5, so the Xbox Series X will have 20% more storage space. However, they both allow SSDs, external storage. If you've got the Xbox, it require you to buy a Seagate external hard drive, which is fine because I think they're really good. The Seagate is one of the best anyway. I've got a Seagate external drive already. So that's what it requires you. So you can't go out and buy any external drive. You have to buy a Seagate, supposedly. The interesting thing here, though, the PS5. It says here, on the other hand, we have an expansion bay for an off-the-shelf SSD for PS5 that should give Sony's customers more options. But then just this line here, there's one big caveat, however. The PS5 expansion bay won't accept just any. So it's not really off the shelf. You can't walk in and grab anything off the shelf. There is a limit to what you can buy. In order to ensure performance capability with the PS5's high-speed SSD and physical capability, the size of the expansion bay, Sony will be certifying individual SSD PS5 drives, which uses the new PSI Express standard. Sony said that it's likely that certifications will begin arriving a bit past the console's launch this fall. So you won't be able to get external drives for your PS5 at launch. You're going to have to wait, and they don't know when. It's likely after the launch. So, with the internal drive being 20% less, and you cannot get external drive off the bat for your PS5, that's putting the console at a massive disadvantage there. If you're going to buy a bunch of games and you're going to run out of space, hopefully there won't be too much to play on PS5 at launch because, well, they've not announced anything yet anyway, so there probably won't be anything to play. But that's another massive thing to take into account. Now, moving on to backwards compatibility. Right, there was a poll a while back that asked gamers what their preferences for next-gen consoles, and top of that list was power, followed by price, followed by backwards compatibility. So they were the top three. Exclusives, I believe, was fourth. So backwards compatibility is what everyone wants, and why wouldn't you? If you've invested a lot of money into a console and a new generation console comes out, you want to be able to carry all those games over. If you can't, then there's nothing tying you to that console. You might as well just dump it and start fresh with a new console, if you so please. That's why backwards compatibility is absolutely vital, and the Xbox Series X has been doing that since it's about 2 years into last generation, and is carrying on to this generation. So not only can you play all the previous generations of games, but the Xbox Series X will also remaster them all automatically for free. The games will be more or less upgraded to that level, kind of like the PC. Now the PC does a similar thing. If you play an old game on your PC, because it allows you to play the games, it will bring it up to the sort of a standard. Which in some cases I've done it before, and I've played really old games on my PC, and yeah, the frame rates and everything on them, it just goes mad. It's almost unplayable. But the interesting thing about PS5 is it won't be compatible with PlayStation 1, 2, or 3 games, and it's only going to be compatible with select PS4 games. They're hoping to work on more down the line. They're just aiming at the sort of the most played games at the moment. So it's not got full backwards compatibility, something that I brought up on Twitter about 8 months ago, and I was shot down by many of the YouTube community, even sort of a couple of the big Xbox gamers saying I'm being a bit of a fanboy. Of course, Sony will have full compatibility, and my point was it won't, for 2 reasons. One, PS Now, they make far too much money with backwards compatibility via PS Now. 2, remasters, they make far too much money with remasters. 3, the architecture's just not there for Sony. 3 major reasons, but I was called a fanboy, and it turns out I was right again. And I'm talking about some of the, I won't mention names, but they are big in the Xbox YouTube circuit. So there we go. So that's another downer really on the PS5. You can't play your old games. You have to make do with whatever PS5 drops. This is why they are supporting cross-gen for the next 3 years, which is what they said. Which Xbox Series X, people are saying Xbox Series X is going to have no games because none of its games are going to be exclusive at launch. Neither are PS5, because if PS5 games are exclusive at launch and you can't play old generation games and it's got no games, it just releases Godfall. What are you going to play on your PS5? You're not going to play anything, are you? No, you're just going to play Godfall. You just spent £500 on a console with fast load times to play Godfall. It's just not happening, people. So let's look at the final sort of other advantages Xbox Series X has over the PS5. So let's do a final roundup. So we know that the Xbox Series X GPU boasts 12 teraflops of compute performance with blah 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 showbiz. Unlike most GPUs, won't fluctuate between speeds. Instead, it will deliver the same clock speed regardless of temperature of the unit or the game you're playing. So that's a direct slap to the PS5, which will reduce depending on the temperature or the game you're playing. The PS5 will lose its strength. I believe will lose its speed. So its frame rates could drop due to the game. Where, as I said before, Xbox Series X is locked. It will not change depending on the temperature or game. The processor is customed. Let's move on. It will be able to names probably. It goes on to the RAM. Right, this is the interesting thing I like here. These are the extra add-ons the Xbox has. The specs show a slight lead for the Xbox Series X over the PS5 in terms of raw performance, but we'll have to see how that translates to real-world performance in games. Microsoft hopes to make latency a thing of the past on Xbox Series X with forward-thinking features such as auto-low latency mode, communication improvements to the Xbox controller, and variable refresh rate support, taking advantage of TVs with HDMI 2.1 support. The next Xbox will also be backwards compatible, which I've said, with the Xbox One supporting hardware accessories, meaning that you won't have to rush out to buy new pads and headsets to accompany the new console, which is excellent, because as we know, controllers cost about 60 quid in the UK, and I don't want to buy all new controllers and stuff, so that's brilliant. And the Xbox Series X will include new features, such as dedicated share button and textured bumpers and triggers. Microsoft has also teased existing Xbox One games like Gears 5 could be enhanced for the Xbox Series X to take advantage of the console new power. And if you're a sucker for buying boxed games over making digital purchases, it's already confirmed to have a physical disc drive, including right. And then there's the extras. Microsoft did pull back the curtain on a few features in February. Those features include smart delivery, which allows current gen gamers to play the best possible version of purchased games on future consoles. So you can buy a game like Cyberpunk 2017 for your Xbox One, safe in the knowledge that you'll get to play the souped up version on the Xbox Series X at no additional cost. So you will not have to buy two versions of games. If you buy an Xbox One game, it will run just the same on your Xbox Series X. Fantastic. How great is that? Microsoft also announced a quick resume. This is the thing I talked about in previous videos. Microsoft also announced a quick resume feature that will let you have multiple games pause on the console at once and pick up where you left off from a suspended state almost instantly, returning you to where you were and what you were doing without waiting through long loading screens. We'll be getting variable rate shading to prioritise individual effects on specific game characters or important environment objects too. Yes, so as I said before, you could be playing a game with a friend. You could be playing a game and a friend goes, "Hey, jump in this game with me." So you just jump in that game with you. The game you was playing at first would just be on hold. Then you can bounce off, play that game with that person. When they log off, then you can just bounce back straight into that other game that you was playing first without any sort of reboot or anything. Or worrying about the save and everything. I think that's absolutely fantastic. Especially good if you're sitting there and, as my wife sometimes does, calls me for dinner and then after run downstairs for dinner, I can just leave my game. You can even turn your, as I was reported in a previous video, you can even actually turn your console off and it will remember where you left it. And you can come up, turn it back on, go straight back into that same spot. So I think that's pretty much it. Let's go on to talk about Xbox Lockhart, because that's still to shown. In a previous video, because people talking about the 3D sound for the PS5, as I couldn't find it again, but as I showed in a previous video, you're going to have to go back to the last one, I believe it was. Xbox has also come out with doing sort of ray tracing for audio. Obviously, they will have ray tracing for Xbox X, which I don't know if the PS5's even got that. Didn't see that in any of the stats. Ray tracing. Should say not ray tracing. Ray tracing. But they also have ray tracing audio as well, which is going to be interesting. So that's pretty much the bottom line of everything. So on paper, as it stands now, the Xbox Series X far outweighs the PS5. PS5, the only advantage it has is load times. But as I said, there is a hindrance to that when you're playing multiplayer games. You're not going to want to wait around for people playing on the lower end consoles. Otherwise, Xbox Series X ticks every other box. It's going to be more dynamic. It's have better graphics. They have better frame rates. It's going to be more reliable. It's not going to dip in performance based on the games or the temperature. It's going to have extra features and add-ons. Xbox X they've also announced games, launch titles. We've got Halo Infinite that's launching on the Xbox Series X. You've got Microsoft Flight Simulator. And also there's a Forza in the works. They've not announced which it is. It's very low, most likely I'd imagine Forza 8 Motorsport. I don't reckon, because Forza Horizon team at Playground Games are working on possibly a Fable. If that will be a launch title, I doubt it. And then for next year, 2021, 2022 possibly, we've got Hellblade 2. You can look at that on YouTube, and Everwild as well, game by Rare. They're churning out games. So a lot of these studios Microsoft bought are working on 2 or 3 games at once. For example, Bleeding Edge that's out on the 24th of March. Ninja Theory working on that. Also working on Hellblade 2. They're working on 2 games at once. And I believe there's another game being worked on. I can't remember. It begins with Mojo or something like that. It's another game being worked on, which I think is by the Obsidian team, who just released Outer Worlds. They're releasing that other game. There's just so many games the studio's working on. So to complain that Xbox has no games or it's got nothing that will show its power, they have. I mean, if you've looked at Hellblade 2 already, it looks phenomenal. far better than anything clearly across anything ever seen on console so far. And that's just that. We've got so much more games coming. Whereas on the PS5, they've not actually announced anything other than Godfall, which looks okay, and it's timed exclusive, and then Watch Dogs, which is multiplat, so which will very like the previous Watch Dogs likely run better on the Xbox because it's more dynamic. So I'll leave that there. I won't ramble on anymore. Let me know your thoughts and everything on the consoles. Which one you're going to buy? The costs, I'm going to guess. I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft, they don't have to, because they've got the Lockhart, which is likely probably slightly less powered than the PS5. Same power. Wouldn't that be hilarious if it's 10 teraflops as well, the same power? But I reckon the cost, they'll probably go 500, possibly 450. Will Sony go with 400 for the PS5? I reckon they're going to go for 500, 450 as well. I reckon the consoles are going to be priced something the same. I don't think there's any way the Sony can drop £100 on Xbox. To be honest, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, there could only be £50 less. Which is that a game changer? £100 is if you walk into a shop and something's £100 less, but £50 less considering the Xbox Series X is more powerful, vastly more powerful. £50, and then you're getting your games free as well. So £50 isn't really a deciding factor when you're getting free games and more power. But let's wait and see. Let me know your thoughts below. Please comment and below, like, subscribe. Please subscribe and share on Twitter. Share wherever you want. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye for now.